I'm a little sick at the time of this recording, so excuse my voice. Also, I got a new microphone. What do you think? Darkwood is a survival horror game set in Poland during the late 80s. Now, I'm not big into horror games, and this was the first one I liked a lot. In fact, it is one of my most memorable experiences in games, and it's definitely one of my favorites. Important anecdote. When I beat the game for the first time, I sat in boredom for about 60 seconds, deciding what to do next, and I decided to immediately start another playthrough and beat it again. I missed the adrenaline. There will be a spoiler warning section later on, so don't worry about major spoilers just yet. If you are really worried about light spoilers, go play the game and come back like this is some kind of book club. Darkwood by Acid Wizard Studios is their only real game to date, but it made them a force to be reckoned with. Let me start with the main reason this game is amazing. I have never felt the feeling of a desperate holdout quite like this. The game gives you a constant feeling of being on edge and anxious, and with no intentional jump scares to boot. Just fear. Which is horror done right. Jump scares are cheap and predictable in many games. In Darkwood, if you get jump scared, it's because you're shaking in your boots and you get gutted in the dark because you weren't focused. We begin in the prologue and learn that there is a plague of some kind, and everyone is stuck in these woods, walking around and looking at all the weird, creepy stuff in the house. We learn that we are the doctor, a fairly sinister one, and head out to find gasoline for our generator. We see our dog as we pass through, looking pretty rough. I don't have the heart to put him down, to be honest. Just kidding.
One last swing for the road!
This section acts as a tutorial and setup to the plot. Only skip it if you're replaying the game. We learn basic mechanics and eventually come across the stranger. He got into the woods somehow, and we figure there must be a way out. We take a weird key and bring him home to drug him up and tie him up. After the doctor beats the stranger in frustration, it becomes more clear that we are now playing as the stranger. We escape the room, learn some more, and bust out. Turn on the generator, and immediately miss when it was dark. We open the scary door and get jumped by the doctor, but we get haunted to death. Oh my god, Soon a masked figure rescues us and leaves us in an abandoned house. This is the first hideout of several. All contain a stove, a workbench, a saw, unique layout, and a generator. After 8 p.m., this is the only place that is safe, so don't get caught too far away at night. The oven being lit pumps gas to keep the go-home mechanic away, and the generator keeps the lights on. You can craft and store items here, and you find the photo of the road home, which you can show to many characters being mute. Every night, the horrors of the forest will assault your hideout, and you must survive until morning. This is the most relieving sound in video games. You barricade doors and windows, and clutch your weapons as enemies break in. Lots and lots of events can happen, like poltergeists, or whatever this is. It is tense, and it is scary. You have line of sight and directed vision. You only see this much at a time. plus loud things like doors breaking and furniture being pushed aside is visible. As you get better stuff and get more experienced, you turn into a crafty little Kevin McAllister.
Give up, or you're thirsty for more?
Eventually, a trader can show up. Daily you barter with reputation. It's like a trade economy with quantifiable IOUs. You can get some amazing stuff here for an edge until you get them more naturally as loot becomes better late game. I recommend buying a watch so you can keep track of yourself. There's also a kind of leveling system and skill tree. At the oven, you can inject yourself with random mushrooms and shit you find, which is how people can level up in real life. It's called Essence, and it gives you passive and active abilities you can use, and every tier comes with a choice of negative traits to pair. It is definitely worth the bad traits. As you get better at the game, they aren't so bad. When you unlock a new tier, the stranger enters a dream sequence or hallucination, with veiled story beats, and some are pass-fail, meaning you will never get to retry a fight within it if you die, and they generally have a few possible effects on the real world. It loads the game with the words, "You are playing a challenging and unforgiving game. You will not be led by the hand. Respect the woods. Be patient. Focus." This is sound advice. You cannot load previous saves or save scum. Believe me, I have tried. And the game has no quest markers. Nowadays, games can drag you by the hand so insanely hard it will dislocate your shoulder. Darkwood doesn't even want to show you where you are on the map. You just have to find landmarks to navigate, read what's said to you, and explore. Side note, inventory is very painfully limited early on. I don't want to leave a location without everything. It does psychic damage to me. So get those upgrades ASAP. The game is at its simplest about exploring throughout a Soviet dark forest, returning home during the deadly night for sanctuary, and holding off the woods' horrors until daybreak. The protagonist just wants to escape the forest. Simple enough, but as you press forward towards the road home, the lines between reality and nightmarish fantasies begin to blur. You have to push forward and face the dreaded unknown, or you'll never make progress. The world map is divided into 3 zones in Chapter 1, and the map is actually randomly generated, which allows for replayability. It can't break. It's done by shuffling the same locations around and the shape and layout of the map. Everything is always there, so you can't really miss out. Eventually you end up at the other zone's own safe houses, and you make your way to Chapter 2. There is a prologue, Chapter 1, 2, and the epilogue. It's about an 18-hour game. It is worth your money. The game's story has many diverging paths, and you'll learn the fate of the Darkwood and characters which changes based on your choices or failures. The game does choices right. Rewards are scaled well. Relatively evil choices are either easier or yield better rewards, while good ones make you feel better. Games like these make you want to play the harder path of good. Something like Fallout 4 makes being a sociopath feel like no big deal, and leads me to make choices on benefit alone and not for how it affects the world I'm in. Good writing and good characters has made me care about what I do. It's great. Seriously. The story is amazing, but it's incredibly veiled in confusion, and to really understand the story, you have to dig a lot. Anyways, I have to touch on the visuals. I love them. The artwork, designs, animations, they are so well suited and stunning for fairly pixelated graphics. The cutscenes are simply inspired. and the items and scenes to inspect are just so intriguing. I would describe the visual style as a Salvador Dali painting, but the paint is scary trees, and the canvas is everyone you know or love. And there's a radio in there. Sound is crisp. Crunchy. Scary. And loud. The music is enigmatic and helps to make you feel uneasy. The original soundtrack is a solid hour long. It's good, fitting, but nothing compares to a good shotgun sound. Combat. Combat is clunky and weighty. Normally, this is a buzzline to criticize combat systems, but here it works. How many successful survival horrors can you think of with clunky combat? Quite a lot, right? You are not a god, you are at the mercy of this world, and you should be scared. If you aren't on your toes, you are going to get hit and hit repeatedly. You have to wind up your attacks and be really close to danger. Guns exist but are limited to later in the game for the most part, and ammo is very rare and expensive. You cannot solely rely on it. Watch how long it takes to get the highest accuracy, standing completely still. That being said, they still pack a punch, and feel good to annihilate things with. You have to manually evade attacks, and believe me when I say, your tiny little backstep features no invulnerability frames. It's hard, and encounters get harder, but naturally you will learn the system and difficulty scales super well. This all serves to make enemies feel threatening. It always feels fair, in my opinion. Okay, it's about time for the story. Spoilers ahead, so skip to this point if you want to avoid major spoilers. I won't explain everything. This isn't exactly a lore video, but I'll try to make you understand what's happening because it can be easy to miss if you don't pay close attention. That being said, I'm still covering quite a bit. Everything is so intentional. Every date, every offhand, insane rambling. You have to pay a lot of attention if you want to understand the story on your first time. Right, so after the prologue, we can go to the tunnels, but they're inaccessible. We then soon meet the Wolfman. He wants us to give him the key to the chicken lady's house in the village nearby, and also to kill the sow. The sow is the main source of food for that village. Would you trust the wolf in a story? The more I say, the more this feels like a grim fairy tale. Even the player's real name is only the Stranger. Characters don't typically have names, but titles. At the chicken lady's house, we meet the musician. He is in love with the pretty lady, but he isn't allowed to see her by the chicken lady. So we have to choose Wolfman or musician. If we help the musician, he tells us to meet with him and visit his mother. When the musician fulfills his wish of returning home, we learn his mother has been mutated by the plague and killed him. As I mentioned earlier, the forest has a spreading influence that mutates and drives people mad. Considering how some characters end up, the Wolfman got off super easy by only being made an anthropomorphic wolf person. When we help the Wolfman, he eats the pretty lady. The Wolfman is the evil option. He is full of anger, resentment, and wants to kill everyone for pissing him off. Even the player, if you refuse his quest. That being said, the Wolfman gives you all the best rewards for taking the path of evil, but you're not a pawn, are you? Either way, both characters help us find the doctor who has our key. The Wolfman tells us how to get to him, allowing for us to get the drop on him in his new location. And the musician sets up an appointment for us, so the doctor is ready for us when we get to him. You either get the jump on the doctor and confront him, or the doctor gasses and injects you with essence and you trip for a while. Again. Which is also what happens in the prologue and dream sequences. We get to see the doctor's story through a hallucination, playing as him. We learn that he isn't so much the villain as much as he is a desperate and tragic character. We can choose to kill or not kill him. You can, however, die in the hallucination, in which case he will simply escape to the next area. If left alive, he will crop up here and there and slowly become more and more corrupted by the woods, and eventually be lost to the deformation and perversion that the plague brings. When the plague began, the villagers asked for the doctor's help. When he was unable to cure such alien machinations, they began to resent him and drove him off. Speaking of which, the player is plague-ridden as well. All this essence of the forest, disfigured reflection, and many characters referring to you as horrific, not to mention being mute. We see the game through the protagonist's thoughts and perspective, but he is an unreliable narrator because you've totally lost it. Needless to say, the stranger can be fairly immoral from time to time. Anyway, we get back the key, or the doctor opens the exit, and we go through it to Chapter 2, the swamp. The swamp is late game, and you only get to bring with you what you had in your inventory. Normally a bike man will transfer your things between safe houses. No longer. Even on this of several runs, I forgot and left all my stockpiled ammo in Chapter 1. Fuck. The swamp has a huge increase in enemy variety and difficulty. The new hideout is large and has a very defendable layout. I know what that means. Uh-oh. We get access to all the best stuff in the game and try to get fully kitted as we loot every location. The Wolfman may show up one night and steal your stuff. You have to fight him to get it back. And, with his assault rifle, yeah. With a wooden table leg, simply because you didn't screw over the villagers for him, because he wanted you to do it. You meet the three. The traitor is decapitated with liar scratched into his mask. The snail. Oh my god. Awesome. The elephants, Mushroom Granny, and the cripple for major characters. In the swamp village, the cripple and a talking tree made of amalgamated bodies lie. The cripple is the only villager left. All the other ones followed the road home. And now he wants to die out in peace without the talking tree talking so much. He tells us to burn the tree from the roots underground, in a cellar that's flooded. To get there, you need an oxygen tank. To get it, we have to talk with the elephants, a family with gas masks on. So their mother is clearly aware of the airborne plague. She asks that we find her son, who has run off to his grandmother's house, and we may grab his drawings from his room. Mushroom Granny is covered in mushrooms. The walls are all oozing and soft, and we can kill her or show her the drawings to get into the boy's room and speak to him. The child seems afraid, and we see near him drawings of an eldritch door with flowers near it. He is humming a weird, incoherent rhyme. We can bring him to his mother and siblings, and she gives us an oxygen tank in return. Or we go to the old shed, follow the flower trail, and use the numbers in the boy's rhyme to open the door and find one of the elephant mother's children is dead there, as well as an alternative oxygen tank. You might also find the radio tower, which is a long, difficult area resulting in the final dream scene and allowing the player to escape another way other than the way behind the talking tree, which is blocking the road home. If you fail this, you can never try it again, and it's pretty hard, so good luck. Going under the tree lets you detonate the gas and immolate the talking tree. This takes a full night to burn down, so we head home and wait for the inferno. The radio tells us off and sets on fire the hardest night in the game. Waves and waves of burning villagers, likely the villagers that made up the talking tree. They are all immune to all active skills and cause burning damage up close, but afterwards we can progress past the swamp village into the road home. We see many figures all progressing down the road, petrified by white goo. Even the cripple is on his way, who didn't want to go before. I don't know. I want to go home, and that is what we do. The same apartment as our dream, normal townies, and our nice bed. The stranger finally gets to rest, and finds the road home. He has escaped the Darkwood. Except it's a sham, it's a lie. The forest is a great big charlatan. We are disfigured and weird. Why is my house just right here? What is going on? Look in the basement and find a radio. Mess with it a bit and it will start telling you to go to sleep. Going back upstairs, we notice roots in the apartment and dig up the floor with a screwdriver until we find the hole under the bed. Entering the hole allows the stranger to break free and wake up. The road home was a trick hallucination manufactured by the being. Beyond the tree was nothing but this. We find an aforementioned researcher here with his beloved flamethrower. We beat the Darkwood, and most everything is swallowed up in the flames. Both endings give you a new Vegas-style end card for the characters. In August 1975, a meteor fell in Poland's Darkwood forest, and with it came a powerful being. The being emits spores which caused the plague. It overgrew the forest and replicated it. Trees grow, make copies, and repair themselves so fast it's impossible to get out for the locals. The Polish government quarantines the region. One day a group of researchers in hazmat suits set out to the Darkwood through a series of tunnels built by the government. which also eventually collapsed by the expanding root system under the woods. The protagonist is one of these researchers, but he can't remember. He's too plague-ridden. He is fairly resistant to the spores, but it takes the being days to years to dehumanize you, and it's extremely case by case. The being has the ability to replicate things and people, and can make poor sentient copies of houses, characters, and fuses the replications to nearby objects. Rapid recontextualization rundown. The player and his research outfit were attacked by savages and tied to trees to be absorbed by the being. You somehow escaped, traded your hazmat gear with a scarecrow's clothing, to be found injured by the doctor in the prologue. The traitor is actually a replica of you from when you were on the tree. Liar. The Wolfman is a replica of the huntsman's body combined with his hunting trophy. The pretty lady was the huntsman's wife or daughter, and the Wolfman's need to devour her likely comes from a perversion of his previous family ties. The snail is the final of a long line of different replicas, a fusion of his last meal, and himself. Escargot, decadent. The mushroom granny is a replica of herself and her entire house in the village. The three are the other children of the elephant mother, living among the savages, and assembling things to make the goddamned monster hybrids, which are all replicated except for chompers, savages, dogs, which are mostly aggravated by the plague. Darkwood is not expensive, which is befuddling because it's basically a luxury product. Treat yourself. I really want Acid Wizard to produce another amazing game like this one. At the time of this recording, my Kenji video, the one before this one, has almost 5,000 views, which is way out of what I would have called plausible. I mean, wow. And the comments are so incredibly nice. At this point, I haven't seen a single comment that is remotely negative. And it's just so inspiring and motivating. I enjoy doing this, so you can expect another video soon. And this one was a lot of work as well. Even more, in fact.
Am I right, ladies?
Leave a like and a comment. It matters. It does. And do subscribe, because I'll be making more stuff, and if you like this one, it would be much appreciated. Also expect a poll in a little while that will give you a choice to vote on what I might cover next from a pool I will be choosing. And until next time, take care. Thank you for watching.